Doubleheader in Coors for these Marlins. How do they play the pitching matchups? No starters have been announced yet. Really intrigued to see how the Marlins go. We're going to get into all of that and more on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Marlins Wednesday edition. I am your host, of course, Peter Pratt. And don't forget to follow me, of course, on Twitter. No TikToks, no Instagrams. No. Twitter only at Miami Marlins _UK. And I'm delighted to welcome on El Extra Base's stud reporter. He is breaking news left, right, and center. Daniel Álvarez is joining the show. How are we doing, Danny?
I'm doing good, Pete. Thank you so much for having me. Now and this time on video, so pretty cool.
Absolutely. What do you think of the production quality?
Awesome. It's awesome, especially because of the Sugar Kings jersey that we have behind you. So that's, elite setup, as you would say.
No doubt about it. Love to see it. Appreciate you hopping on today, Danny. This is an interesting moment for the Marlins. A doubleheader in Coors. I'm not sure I can think of really anything worse for a pitching staff, a doubleheader in Coors. Nevertheless, the Marlins, they've not got any starters announced for today's games. The Rockies are out there bold. I think Marquez is going game 2, Sensatella game 1.
Two Venezuelans against the Marlins.
Two Venezuelans too. So there we go. Well, before we get into how the Marlins play it, the doubleheaders as well this year in 22. It's the first time we've had them. They're back to 9 innings. So the 7-inning doubleheaders are gone. How does that change the approach for clubs now with two 9-inning games in Coors? It's a real tough ask.
Well, yeah. I mean, as you mentioned, it's tough for the pitching staff, and especially, it was good to have a day off yesterday. Kind of a day off, because of the rain, to get rain out last night. So the bullpen, it's going to be a little bit more fresh for today's game or for today's doubleheader. And they're certainly going to need them. And they're going to need both starters. Probably Edward Cabrera and Trevor Rogers might be the starters for today, especially since Edward was announced for yesterday and Trevor was supposed to start today. Those two might be the ones. And now the Marlins have to call up someone else to join the bullpen. Remember that they need 27 players instead of 26 for doubleheaders. So I would expect to see someone coming up from AAA, or maybe someone that has been already on the taxi squad.
Yeah, I guess the other corresponding move that we maybe need to think about, it's unclear. Obviously, Joey Wendell just called time on his day, specifically on Monday, just walked straight off the field, re-aggravated the hamstring, not good for him. Question is where's Wendell? Do we also need to replace Wendell too with is he may need an IL stint? So a lot of decisions here going on. Clearly, the Fish are going to need a lot of pitching for these 2 games. Eddie Cabrera expected to come up. Trevor Rogers also likely to go. I'm intrigued to see if they do go with Trevor Rogers or they maybe push him back. I don't know. Gut feel is they go with those two to kind of face off against the Rockies. They're 2 starters as well. But Edward Cabrera coming up, going to make his debut, major league debut anyway, in 22. A tough ask for Eddie. First start in Coors. Not ideal, but if the Marlins can get 5 innings out of Eddie, I think they'll be pretty pleased today. What about you?
Yeah, absolutely. You always want as many quality innings as you possibly can from a starter, right? And with Edward Cabrera, we saw him last year. He struggled a bit in his time in the big leagues, but we know that he has the stuff to become a successful pitcher, and one day maybe be a 1 or 2 on every single rotation, or every rotation that you can possibly imagine. What really intrigues me about this matchup today for Eddie is, pitching at Coors Field might be difficult for pitchers that are not used to pitch there. And we saw the Rocky starter in game 1, how he dominated the Marlins offense, which is something that doesn't look hard to do in these days. Sadly, the offense hasn't been that good. But still, he did a pretty nice job. Antonio Sensatella has been pitching well. Kyle Freeland can pitch very good games. Today we have Herman Marquez, who is a pitcher that we've seen him pitch really good at Coors and really bad at Coors. But the tough thing about it is how do you grip, the grip that you have with the ball. And for Cabrera, he needs to have that good grip, especially to separate that, the movement of his changeup and his fastball, because both pitchers are so fast. But especially with the changeup, the movement is not as good as he would like it to be. So he needs to get that ball to sink a little bit more, and that has to do with the grip, because it's the same angle, that in the same release point with the fastball. The thing is that he needs to get that ball to move a little bit down, a little bit more down, so he can have that breaking move and be more effective. And if he's able to do that, to control that, then he's going to be successful, because he really needs that pitch. We all know that the fastball is really good and the breaking ball as well, but he needs to get better with that changeup. And to start doing that at Coors Field is going to be a tough task.
It really is. I'm really intrigued as well to see, a bit like Jesus Luzardo, where had struggles with the walks last year in 21. Eddie Cabrera equally had some troubles with walks. I'm intrigued to see how aggressive he is. And like you said, if he can get those, the changeup going, it's a 94-mile-an-hour changeup. I mean, it's a Sandy Alcantara special, throwing gas with the change. If he can get that going, listen, anything 5+ for me, debut at the major league level, I think is a bonus here. And I'm really intrigued to see. I'm excited to see. I think we've been sleeping on Edward Cabrera as a fan base generally. We've talked a lot about Max Meyer. We've got it hyped about Max. We're not talking about Sixer because he's still rehabbing. We've forgotten of the other ace sitting there in the hole, ready to go, right?
That might be even better than Max, and that's that's a lot to say, because Max is really good. We all know that he's very good, but the one that has already pitched in the big leagues and that has a better pedigree than Max is Edward Cabrera. So that's gonna be that's gonna be interesting to see, especially because he already had that experience last year, and that helps, because he knows what it is to struggle in the big leagues, and obviously he has to make those adjustments. And I think that with his work ethic and how much he studies and how much he prepares, he's going to be ready to turn it around.
I'm with you. I'm totally with you. I'm expecting some big things from Edwards. And like you said, that short stint at 21 is going to stand him in good stead. He knows what he needs to work on. He's known all offseason what he needs to work on and what big league hitters can do. I think, this should be, and I think this is going to be a sustained stint in the rotation. Clearly, obviously, Luzardo's still down. Eliezer struggling as well. Cody Poteet gone down. I think Eddie's here to stay now. Health, if health, sticks around, and he's okay, he's going to get a good go at this one, I think. So I think that's good for him. He knows he's coming into a kind of solid position, not kind of up and down. Where am I going to be pitching next week? So, Daniel, I want to go back as well a couple of days to Pablo Lopez. You talked about, having to change your approach. Pablo just went in with a game plan suited specifically to Coors, and boy, oh boy, he executed. He's been sensational this year. We've always known it. If the health is there, Pablo Lopez is a top of the rotation arm. Absolutely. What have you made of Pablo's start? I know, look, listen, Venezuelans, there's, a proud Venezuelan yourself. So let's start at the top with the ace, Pablo, and what you've seen from 22 from him.
Yeah, I think I can be prouder of what Pablo has done so far this year, because we know that the talent is there, but unfortunately for him, the shoulder issues have been killing him in the last 3 to 4 years that he has been here in the big league. So he really needed to change that. And I remember asking Pablo, I think it was the last game of 2021 or the day before, I asked him, like, what do you need to do to get rid of those shoulder problems? And he told me, Danny, I don't know. I think I have to work a little bit harder and then get stronger in my shoulder. And that's exactly what he did in the offseason. I know that he worked in his mechanics, to find that point where he's not hurting his shoulder, and at the same time making that effective so he can throw the fastball and the changeup and at the same point and be successful. And that has been the key for Pablo so far this year. And I remember in spring we were all worried about Pablo because his fastball wasn't that fast, and he really struggling, and people were like, "Oh, maybe we need to get Trevor ahead of Pablo in the rotation." I'm like, "Hell no!" I mean, Pablo is the one that can get you to 180, 190, 200 innings, being healthy. Of course, Trevor can, but he's one step behind, I think. And now he's going to his sophomore year, and it's going to be all different. And then we saw why spring training is the way it is, because it is to work on those things, and that's exactly what Pablo did. So I think he's only gonna get better, which is hard to say when you have a 1.80 something ERA, under 2. But he's just gonna get better, and as long as he's healthy, man, everything is gonna be good for Pablo, because he's so smart, so intelligent, and the way he studies. I mean, for us that we have the privilege to see his routine before games. When I get to when it's Pablo Day and I'm at the ballpark and I get into a clubhouse, I'm already seeing Pablo, being lights out, because he gets to the clubhouse always with the same. I think he likes it that way. Always with the same outfit the day he's pitching. He's wearing jeans with a black T-shirt, and then he goes, to his locker and starts studying on whatever he has on a notebook, and then the iPad, and then he's like, okay, the guy's locked in, he's focused. Don't talk to him, don't bother him, and then you see him throwing 6 shutout innings with 9 strikeouts. So that's really fascinating.
Absolutely. I love it. I love the fact he's got a pitching outfit specifically where he just hey, that's the way to do it.
I don't know if it's just a coincidence, but every time I see him that he's pitching, he's always wearing the same thing. So it has to be that.
There's no coincidences with Pablo Lopez, because listen, he is, maybe it's the kind of, I don't know, someone else, I can't recall who, but someone else has a similar kind of method where they don't want to have to make decisions about what they're wearing. They just know, hey, I'm pitching today. I've got my pitching outfit. I don't have to worry about it. I don't need the mental space about what I'm wearing to the ballpark. Anyway, we're going way off track here into fashion choices, which probably we shouldn't do, but nevertheless, there's one specific follow-up on Pablo I want to get into, but before we do that, reminder, guys, this episode is brought to you by Blue Nile. At BlueNile.com, you can celebrate all of life's special moments, from creating the custom engagement ring of her dreams to gifting a classic and timeless jewelry piece, all at prices you won't find at a traditional jeweler. So whether you're ready to pop the question or you're celebrating a milestone moment, find jewelry as unique as her with the modern convenience of online shopping at BlueNile.com. So if you're thinking about engagement rings of her dreams, Blue Nile is a simple online tool that lets you choose the diamond shape, size, and clarity, as well as setting style. Blue Nile's bench jewelers will then handcraft her perfect engagement ring. Each ring is one of a kind. Bespoke diamond engagement ring sounds amazing. Make the moment sparkle with jewelry from BlueNile.com. And Locked On listeners get $50 off purchases of $500 or more. This podcast exclusive includes engagement rings. Use code Locked On. That's code Locked On. Plus, every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever peace. Go to BlueNile.com today. Oh boy, BlueNile.com. They sound. I mean, I'm glad I've already popped the question. I'm glad I've done it.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna ask that question. I don't know if it's this year or maybe sooner, but I think I gotta call my guys at Blue Nile. Yeah.
I was going to say, listen, if you need it, use code Locked On. They got you covered. So.
Of course. There you go.
Right, listen, one final one on Pablo. I've been thinking about this. You kind of alluded to it. The offense has not been on fire this year, and the Marlins are drifting away. The season is not started the way they wanted. A lot of teams are in the mix. There's that extra wildcard space too that kind of creates opportunities. How many teams are going to be called on Pablo Lopez ahead of the deadline, do you think? And do the Marlins entertain those discussions right now based on where they're at?
About 29.
Absolutely.
I mean, every team should ask for Pablo, and the Marlins should listen to every single offer, for Pablo. However, I don't know if people say this is the right year to, this is the right moment to trade Pablo. Why? Why would you want to trade a guy that is giving you that amount of quality innings and giving you the possibility to win every single day that he goes out and pitch? I mean, I don't think I don't like, and I don't want to get back on that notion of trading every single piece that is within 1 year or 2 years of arbitration and start rebuilding again. Maybe if it's to get those significant bats that are going to help you to win in 2023, then go ahead and do it. But I think that the Marlins are going to win with Pablo in the rotation. I know that they have the pitching depth in the minors with Max, with Edward, with Jake Heater, Daxton Fulton, whoever you want to throw in that mix. But you need the guys that can assure you 180, 90, 200 innings. And Pablo, you have the if he's healthy. But right now he's proven that he's healthy, and hopefully, knocking on wood, he's gonna stay like that the whole year. So you need those type of pitchers. You need the guys like Sandy. You need the guys like Pablo. You need Trevor to take that next step that he can become that type of pitcher that can give you 6 or 7 innings every night. So I don't see why they should trade Pablo now. I think that they have the pieces in the minor leagues to go and maybe get another bat. They have the money to go and spend in the free agency, and next year there will be many good free agents as well. We need Mr. Sherman to, we need more action and less words than, we have money, we're going to spend it. 36 million in Jorge Soler, that's not spending, my guy. That's, barely trying. So they need more.
I'm with you. I completely agree with both of those core topics that you've touched on there. Pablo, flat no for me. Build around Pablo. It's rather than the kind of trade talks.
Right now,
it's the extension talks.
I don't know if there's a better one to come in the big leagues right now than Pablo and Sandy. Is there any? I mean, look at the numbers and you have them there. How sustainable it is, I don't know. But right now you have it, and you gotta trust it. And I think once again you are winning with Pablo, not without him.
Completely agree. Let's stay Venezuelan. Let's stay in the pitching side.
One thing. Yeah, I know who you're gonna ask me for, but the one request I have, and I tell this to Kim every time I see her. I don't know if Kim is watching this.
She usually
maybe
does.
On her own or burner account, but let Pablo pitch in the World Baseball Classic next year. Thank you.
There you go. You heard it first. You heard it here first. I'm expecting Kim's burner to be lighting up and say, "Of course, that is happening." Sure. So, for sure. And we know she's got a burner. It may just be at Marlins. It could just be
sure.
that.
100%. Yeah,
for sure. Let's stay into the pitching side, but and Venezuelan. Talk to me about Elieser Hernandez here, because it's fair to say it's been a struggle for him. It's just been the long ball fundamentally. Just too many home runs given up this year. But there's a couple of guys down at the moment. How are the Marlins going to play this with Elieser? Is it just kind of let him work it out at the majors, or do they go a different direction at this point?
Well, right now they're letting it work, and right now they need Elieser to pitch because of all the health issues that they have with Luzardo and Cody Poteet, right? But at some point, I would expect Elieser to go to the bullpen whenever they decide to go with Edward Cabrera and or Max Meyer, right? they're gonna have one of those two in the mix. The thing with Eliezer so far, as you mentioned, is the long ball. That's the problem for him. It's not the walks. It's not that he's getting drilled every time that he goes and pitch. The thing for him is the home run, and that tells you that there's something with the location, with the execution, and with the stuff that he has. He doesn't have Sandy or Pablo or Trevor stuff, but he can be pretty effective. And we see him when he goes and pitches 3 shutout innings, and then you're like, okay, he's back. And then he has a problem when he's facing the lineup for the second or third time. So the Marlins, they need to find a way to get Eliezer only through 3, 4, 5 innings. Maybe that's just as a long reliever. Maybe you want to go like the Rays do with an opener and let Eliezer pitch 1 or 2 innings and then have whoever you want behind him. Because I really think that he can still be pretty effective in the big leagues, and he has shown that. The problem is the way he started right now. This season, and that's a problem, especially if you want to win, and you want to win now. You cannot let games, slip, just like this, because you're not going to win a division in May or June, but you may start losing it. And same with a wild card spot, and seeing what's happening around the league, in the Central and in the West. So yes, they need to do something with Eliezer sooner rather than later, but. And not people might say, yeah, you're biased because you're Venezuelan. No, but I really saw everything that he did in the offseason, how hard he worked, and not only physically but mentally as well, and on the pitching side to get better. This year, I think he worked out harder than any other year of his life, and that's exactly what he said. He changed his routine. Maybe for some pitchers, when they are after that one off season that they went all out, then they learn how to be more okay. I'm not gonna give everything right here, in December, and maybe the workload is gonna be a little bit lower for the next off season, and that's gonna let for him, he's gonna find a way to get more effective on the pitching side, because he's gonna work a little bit lighter. That might help him. I don't know. But I know that he worked really hard, and he did everything he possibly could to get better this year. So that's why I really trust him, because I saw that, with my own eyes. So
there you go.
That's the one thing with Eliezer. It's really frustrating because the results are not there, but I know that he worked really hard to be really effective.
Yeah, for sure. That's a really great insight, that we know Eliezer is busting his ass to be better. Here's the other tick as well. He's been healthy for a sustained period. There was another, there's been the historical problems, and it was all freak injuries, if you remember. There was base running going on last year, and all sorts.
And the blisters, yeah.
And the blisters. So he's been healthy. He's working. Just too many home runs. And so it's just, and I trust Mel. I trust Mel to be, and with Eliezer's mentality, work ethic, they'll get it right, and they need him to get it right. We can't get away from it. There were some discussions at the point when Max was on fire.
Yeah.
Do you bring Max up? Do you make that switch?
I do, but I don't know if right now, because Max had the elbow injury, the nerve injury, and when you see Max starts in AAA and AA as well last year, they were really good, but the big leagues are a different animal and a different world, where hitters make adjustment during the at bat, not from one at bat to the other. During the at bat, they make the adjustments, and they need Max Meyer to be, to pitch more than 5 innings, and he averaged 5. He barely averaged five innings last year, and they need him to be more than a 2-pitch guy, because he has a fastball, he has a slider. The slider is the nastiest one I've seen since Jose Fernandez, but the changeup, he really needs to work on that. It's getting better this year, but it's still a average pitch right now in the big leagues, and we know that basically every hitter is sitting on the changeup. So he really needs to work on that. I get the point that he's really good, and the only way you can get big league experience is by pitching in the big leagues. But at the same time, I get the point when the Marlins say, "Hey, you know what? We need to be careful with this guy, because this is not like when they had Braxton Garrett or Justin Nicolino. It's not a regular pitching prospect. This guy is your best pitching prospect, and someone that you need to rely on for the next for the rest of his career, if you want. And you need to be very, very careful with Max and the way you treat him.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm going to flick over to the offensive side of the team right now. We're going to continue the Venezuelan theme. But before we do that, reminder, guys, this episode is also brought to you by BetOnline. And our partners at BetOnline continue to be the number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, Major League Baseball scores, fights, and even next season's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today. Use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Danny, it's time to flick over to the offense, and we need to understand when the season is going to properly start for Avisail Garcia, because it has been a real struggle. Listen, if I know one person that will be relatively close to the situation, try and understand what's going on, where's your head at with this one? How can we explain just such a slow kind of, and it's just, I'm watching on the TV. It hasn't looked good. It's been the same over and over in terms of a lot of grounders to third, but where's Avi's head at with this one?
I know that he's frustrated, and he has been basically frustrated all year long, since the year started. And in April, we were like, well, yeah, it's early in the season. He's going to figure it out. Then we got to May, and he was crushing the ball, but being unlucky. And we saw that, especially you remember that game in Arizona. Also, he
thought it was a no doubter, didn't he? In Arizona, he was gone.
And it was the same pitch, same location, same exit velo, same launch angle, same direction of Jorge Soler's homer, one or two hitters before Avi, and then one was a homer, a no doubter, and the next one was a single. Something that you can't explain, right? Just as you maybe cannot explain what's happening with Avisail. I know that he has been, again, working very hard. At one point, he was like, okay, is it something that I'm doing in my mechanics, in my swing? Then he was hitting the ball well, so it's like, okay, there's nothing. I mean, I'm doing it. I'm hitting the ball well. Hits are gonna fall at some point. And then he went back to April Avisail, when he was not hitting the ball well, or not hitting the ball at all. And maybe it's something with the approach, and that frustration can lead to do things that you're not supposed to. I don't know if that's the case with Avisail. I've talked to him about it, and I know he wants to contribute. He wants to contribute more than anybody else. He's playing at home because he lives here. He has always enjoyed playing in Miami and against the Marlins. And we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and he told me then in 2019, I thought, and I could have swore that I was gonna end up here in 2020. But it didn't happen. Of course, the situation for the Marlins was different. They were in that type of rebuild mentality.
Yeah.
Although that year they ended up playing in the playoffs, but it was completely different. But Avisail wanted to play here because he lives here, and he knows that the team needs him. The team needs Soler and Avisail and Aggie and Coop, the big guys to respond and to play the way they're supposed to. They know that they are capable of doing it. Soler had a 48 homer season in 2019. Avisail, he's a former All-Star, and he hit 29 last year. And Nagy, a former All-Star as well, last year almost drove in 100. Coop, we know that when he's healthy, he can be a 25, 30 homer guy. but they need to get it together and maybe change something. I don't know if it's mental or what, but they certainly need to get better if they want to win, and I know that they're starting to feel that pressure right now.
Yeah, to be expected. I mean, the offense in general hasn't been great, and those guys at the top of the order, they've been below where their expectations, I think, was set, and so you can understand the frustration. Jesus Aguilar, though, he's on his final year of his deal, I guess, and it's kind of looking like Aggie's kind of back. I think he's the hits leader for the Marlins this year, splitting time between first base, DH. It's kind of vintage Aggie. The one question, though, really is if the Marlins do fall away with this one this season is Aggie moved? It's kind of feels like the most likely situation. If they, with Lewin sitting there, in AAA, it looks ready. They need to really have a look at Lewin just to see what they've got, I think. And so, I don't know. I'm intrigued to see the way they play this with Aggie, but he's been a really solid Marlin and a solid hitter. He continues to be, and so I'm intrigued. Where's Aggie's head at now this year? Kind of entering this kind of potential situation.
He knows that he's playing for the Marlins, but also showcasing for the other 29 teams in the big leagues. I mean, every single player, I think they think that way. Last year, many teams called for Aggie, but they told him days before the trade deadline, "You're not going anywhere." In fact, they offered him an extension, but it wasn't nowhere near close to the amount that he wanted.
Surprise.
I think Craig reported this in a column last year, but he didn't reveal the terms. But it was he last year he was making $4.3 million, I think it was. So they offered that same amount for 2022 and 2023. So a total of 8.6 for the next 2 years, and this year he's making 7.3. So there was no way he was signing that contract.
No way.
And this year was interesting because they almost went to arbitration for the second time. Remember that they already went in 2020. And Aggie won that arbitration case. He was probably going to win this one, but they figured a way to get an agreement, reach to an agreement before heading to the ARB, and I think that's pretty good. But you mentioned something that it's really, really important, Pete. You mentioned the word leader. And we know that the captain and the leader is Miggy. But really, one of the biggest leaders, if not the biggest leader in the Marlins clubhouse, is Jesus Aguilar. And something, it's not that I talk to the players and ask about that, because you don't ask that type of question. But with everything I've seen in the last 3 years, since COVID year, is Aggie being the leader of this organization, and I think that's why they like him so much inside the clubhouse and inside the organization. I know that he's had conversations with executives about the state of the team and what needs to change and what not. But it's going to be an interesting situation, because many things might call the Marlins again in July to ask for him, knowing that he's on the last year of his contract, and that they have depth in that position with Coop and Lewin Diaz. Maybe Lewin is a trade candidate as well. I don't know. But I mean, things are going to get interesting with Jesus in a couple weeks.
Yeah, they absolutely will. We're running real long, which is typical for me. It's nothing to do with
and
Danny.
For me as well.
For sure.
I remember last year, the 100th episode of your podcast, and it's like, oh yeah, Danny, this is a 10-minute thing, and we ended up talking for like 35 minutes.
A standard for us, the boys. We get on a groove, so for Obviously. Sure. But one final one. You're talking about arbitration, and I forgot to ask you about this, and you may not know the answer to it, and so it's dangerous for me to ask this question. But I was very intrigued, because a wrinkle to this year is the fact that arbitration was happening, a month, 6 weeks into the season. It's quite a unique situation. Clearly, the Marlins and Pablo Lopez ended up going to arbitration. The Marlins won that case. I asked Joe Vasara, we were talking about it last week, about whether it would impact him or not. I just wondered if you had anything that you were able to share around, maybe, or even if you know this, around how Pablo felt about that whole situation. Maybe it doesn't bother him and he's just carrying on. But
he's a very classy guy, and when I asked about this, he said, "Well, it was an experience, and that's it. That's everything, everything he told me." So that's everything I can say so far, and I can tell you this because I've talked to other players about the arbitration, and maybe all of them agree on it, but not everyone will tell you. But it really hurts the relationship with the team, because Pablo, I mean, in his case, he didn't go directly to the ARB case. But the thing is that when a player goes there and he listens to his own team telling him what you're doing wrong and what not, you are like, then why are you signing me, or why do you want me? In your team, like, what the hell is going on? If I'm this bad, why
release me?
Like, just release me. That's it. But I know that they then they go and find a way to get better, get a better relationship. But I can tell you that it hurts for some players. Remember talking to one of them, he told me it is a cruel moment. It's a very cruel moment, and you feel so small sometimes. Obviously, you have something on your side and on your case that makes you think, okay, you are wrong, I'm right with this, and these numbers and these stats and everything that I've done, it's proving it. But it could be hard sometimes. I remember, I think it was 10 Lincecum got into the arbitration room with these 2 Cy Young awards, one on each hand. Like, okay, let's talk now. But
well played.
Yeah, that can happen, and it's very cruel. The thing is that Pablo is such a classy man, and he understands everything that's happening around him. So I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Like you said, Pablo, the classiest dude, the nicest dude for sure. And so it doesn't shock me. But equally, I was intrigued that it got to that stage at this point of the year because of the way with the CBA, the lockout, the CBA, they kind of pushed back the arbitration process. The fact that Pablo at that point, they can't take this into account, but he was at the point, the ERA leader in Major League Baseball, a Cy Young candidate. Of course, the way things work, they can't take any of that into account, and just a wild situation to be happening. But yeah, it doesn't shock me that Pablo just played it cool. It was an experience, and leave it at that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and on that, this has been an experience, as always, a brilliant one, no doubt. Daniel Álvarez on Locked On Marlins for the second time since I've hosted. We actually talked baseball. The last time we spoke, we just talked about F1.
We spoke F1, yeah.
We did, and a lot's changed in the F1 world since too. So it's been overdue, this conversation. Danny, for those that aren't watching this show and don't have the graphics to help them, a lot still listen on the pod. Remind everyone where they can get you on Twitter, all of the other outlets that you're working with. Pump up all of the content that you're pumping out there with Alex Travasse, please.
Thank you, man. At Daniel Álvarez EE, and EE stands for Alex Travasse, which is my outlet, my own project that I started 4 years ago. Everything about baseball and Latino baseball, you can find it in Alex Travasse, as we mentioned earlier. We're so excited, so happy, pumped for the WBC. So that's going to be our tournament. But right now, follow us, to get everything about Major League Baseball coverage, All-Star Game in July, then postseason, everything. So thank you, Pete, for having me, and always, for giving me the opportunity to talk about my own projects here.
Absolutely. Well, that is us done. Wednesday's episode in the books. Myself, Peter Pratt, also Daniel Álvarez. We're signing out, and there's a double header, and it's a UK-friendly one. So no doubt we'll all be engaging on Twitter later on, enjoying hopefully 2 Marlins wins. I'll be back tomorrow previewing the Giants series. So it comes thick and fast for the Marlins now. 2 games against the Rockies, straight back home, and a 4-game series against the Giants. So I'll be back tomorrow with the preview with one of the UK guys that covers and follows the Giants. So stay tuned for that one, guys. In the meantime, enjoy the doubleheader tonight. Back tomorrow.